At 16, she was sacrificed, still innocent, left as bait for bears, until a Comanche warrior saved her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The scorching sun beat down relentlessly on the remote wilderness of the American frontier. Deep in the heart of the rugged mountains, 16-year-old Anna lay bound by thick ropes, her skin already marked with dirt and the sweat of a day spent in fear. The air was thick with the smell of pine and earth, and a distant howling wind whispered through the trees. Anna's heart raced in her chest, each beat echoing the fear that gripped her. She was no stranger to hardship, having grown up in the harsh realities of the frontier. But nothing could have prepared her for this moment. Her captors, a band of ruthless settlers, had stripped her of her dignity, branding her as nothing more than a tool in their cruel game. She had been sacrificed, left as bait in the wilderness to lure the bears that roamed the land, creatures she knew could tear her apart with a single swipe. The desperation was overwhelming. But in that moment, Anna did not give in to the terror that surged within her. Instead, she clung to a single, stubborn hope. Someone would come. Somewhere, out there was someone who would fight for her life. Her breath hitched as the sound of heavy footsteps reached her ears. The faintest rustling in the underbrush signaled an approaching predator, its massive form moving with purpose toward her. A bear. Anna's pulse quickened, her body straining against the ropes, desperate to break free. But the more she struggled, the tighter the ropes seemed to become. Her hands were numb from the tightness, her legs too weak to push herself up. She could see the creature now, its dark form looming through the trees, the glint of its eyes catching the fading light. Fear coursed through her veins, freezing her in place. But then, just as the bear's jaws were about to snap shut around her, a shadow darted from the trees, swift as the wind. A warrior, clad in the traditional garb of the Comanche, moved with the precision of a predator. His bow was drawn, and with a single, fluid motion, he released the arrow, striking the bear in the chest. The animal let out a loud, guttural roar, but the arrow found its mark, and the beast crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Anna's breath caught in her throat as the warrior approached. His eyes, dark and intense, scanned the scene. He looked at her with something she couldn't quite understand, perhaps pity, perhaps something deeper. Without a word, he moved toward her, cutting the ropes that bound her. His touch was firm but gentle, his fingers working with swift precision. For the first time in what felt like forever, Anna could feel her blood circulating again. As she stood up, shaky and weak, she looked at him. The Comanche warrior said nothing, but his eyes spoke volumes. The silence between them was filled with unspoken understanding, a bond formed in the most unlikely of circumstances. This was the beginning of her new life, one that would take her far from the world she had once known. She had been saved, but the cost was yet to be understood. As the warrior led her away from the danger, Anna's heart pounded with a mix of relief and confusion. She had been saved, but now what? What would become of her? Would the warrior's tribe accept her? Would she ever find a place where she truly belonged? The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in days, Anna felt a glimmer of hope. The warrior's presence offered a kind of safety she hadn't known since her childhood. The wind howled through the trees, and the world around them seemed vast and endless. And yet, for Anna, it no longer felt so empty. The warrior led Anna through the dense forest, his movements as quiet as the wind itself. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape. Anna stumbled slightly as she walked, her legs still weak from the ordeal, but the warrior's presence beside her made her feel a sense of security she hadn't known for days. Her eyes flickered up to him, the Comanche warrior whose swift arrow had saved her life. He walked with purpose, his eyes scanning the path ahead, always alert, always vigilant. Anna could see the hardened lines of his face, the calm strength in his posture, and she wondered what kind of man he truly was. What did he want from her? The silence between them was thick with uncertainty. He had saved her, but there was no promise of what would come next. Anna couldn't help but feel a mix of gratitude and confusion. The warrior had freed her from her captors, but would he truly protect her, or was she just another burden to him? As the night grew darker, the warrior finally spoke. His voice was low and steady, the words soft but carrying a sense of authority. "You are safe now, but we must keep moving." Anna nodded, still not sure what to say. The words she wanted to speak felt caught in her throat, her fear making it hard to form coherent thoughts. They walked for hours, the terrain growing more treacherous as they ventured deeper into the wilderness. Anna's legs ached, but the warrior never slowed his pace. Every so often, he would glance over his shoulder, making sure she was still following. When they reached a small clearing, he stopped, motioning for her to sit. The warrior built a small fire, its crackling warmth offering a brief respite from the chill that had set in. As he sat across from her, he studied her for a moment before speaking again. "What is your name?" he asked, his tone gentle but firm. Anna hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She had been so focused on surviving, on getting away from the danger, that she hadn't stopped to think about who she was in this new world. "Anna," she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anna," he repeated, as if testing the name. "And you are from the settlers?" She nodded, the weight of her past life pressing down on her. "Yes," she said quietly, her gaze dropping to the ground. I was left behind. Sacrificed." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with the truth of her situation. She looked up to see the warrior watching her with a mixture of understanding and something else, perhaps pity, or perhaps empathy. He did not speak immediately, but his eyes softened. "You are strong," he said finally. "It takes strength to survive what you have." Anna felt a flicker of hope rise within her at his words. She had never thought of herself as strong. To her, survival had always been about sheer will, about making it through each day, each hour, without giving in. But hearing the warrior's words, something inside her stirred. Maybe, just maybe, she was stronger than she realized. The warrior reached into his pack and pulled out a small bundle of dried meat and water. He offered it to her, and Anna took it gratefully, her stomach growling in protest. She ate quietly, trying to ignore the burning questions that filled her mind. Where would she go now? What would she do? She had no family, no home. She was a stranger in a strange land, and her only connection to this new world was the warrior sitting across from her. "Tomorrow," he said, breaking the silence once more, "we will go to my people. You will be safe there." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise. Anna's heart skipped a beat at the thought of being with his people, the Comanche. She had heard stories, of course, tales of fierce warriors and a way of life so different from anything she had ever known. But now, the idea of joining them, of being accepted, felt like a lifeline. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in days, she felt a small flicker of hope. As the fire flickered low, the warrior stood, his form silhouetted against the dying embers. "Get some rest," he said. "We leave at dawn." Anna nodded, her exhaustion finally catching up with her. She lay down on the cold ground, her thoughts swirling as she closed her eyes. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long while, she felt something she hadn't felt in ages, a sense of possibility. As the first light of dawn broke through the dense trees, Anna awoke with a start. She had barely slept, her mind racing with the events of the past few days. She rubbed her eyes, the exhaustion from the long journey still weighing heavily on her. The fire from the night before had died down to a soft glow, and the warrior was already up, packing his belongings. His movements were swift and practiced, the quiet strength of someone who had spent his life in the wild. Anna slowly rose to her feet, stretching her stiff muscles. She still felt the ache in her legs from the rough terrain, but there was something else now, a spark of anticipation, of hope. She had no idea what the future held, but it was better than what she had left behind. The warrior turned to her, his face unreadable. "We move now," he said in a low voice. Anna nodded, gathering her things. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and the small bundle of supplies he had given her the night before. It was all she needed for now. The warrior led the way through the dense forest, his pace steady and unrelenting. Anna followed closely behind, her eyes scanning the wilderness around her. The world felt so vast, so unfamiliar, and yet, there was a strange comfort in it. For the first time since her life had been upended, she felt a small sense of belonging. As they moved deeper into the forest, Anna noticed how the warrior seemed to blend with his surroundings. He was a part of this land, his every step purposeful, his every glance sharp. She could feel the weight of his presence, the quiet power that surrounded him. It was clear he was a man who knew this land, a warrior who had fought battles, survived hardships, and earned his place in the world. Anna wasn't sure what he saw in her, but she knew one thing. She owed him everything. They walked for hours, the quiet of the forest broken only by the occasional bird call or rustle of leaves. The air was cool and crisp, the scent of pine trees filling her lungs. Anna's thoughts drifted, and she found herself wondering about the warrior's life. Who was he? Where did he come from? What did he want with her? The questions swirled in her mind, but she didn't dare ask. She didn't want to disturb the silence that seemed to wrap around them like a protective shield. As the day wore on, they reached a wide river, its waters rushing swiftly over the rocks. The warrior stopped at the edge, looking across to the far side. He turned to Anna, his eyes scanning her face for any sign of hesitation. "We cross here," he said, his voice steady. Anna nodded, though the sight of the rushing water made her nervous. She had never crossed a river like this before. The warrior moved first, stepping into the water with ease, his body steady and sure. Anna hesitated for a moment, but then, remembering the kindness he had shown her, she followed. The cold water hit her legs, sending a jolt of shock through her body, but she pressed on. With every step, the current grew stronger, and she had to concentrate to keep her balance. But the warrior was always just a step ahead, his hand occasionally reaching back to steady her when the water threatened to pull her off course. Finally, they reached the other side, and Anna collapsed onto the shore, her legs trembling from the effort. The warrior stood silently, watching her, before offering her a hand to help her up. She took it, grateful for his quiet strength. As they continued their journey, the landscape around them began to change. The trees grew thicker, the ground more uneven. Anna could feel the difference in the air, a shift, like the world was holding its breath. The warrior's pace never slowed, but Anna could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes darted from side to side. He was on high alert. After what felt like hours, they reached a small clearing where a few other figures waited. Anna froze, her heart racing. She hadn't expected to meet anyone, let alone a group of people. The warrior stepped forward, and as he did, the others relaxed, their tense bodies easing as they recognized him. Anna could see the difference now. These were the people he had spoken of. They were the Comanche. They were not just a tribe, they were his family. The leader of the group, a tall man with a scar running across his cheek, stepped forward. His eyes appraised Anna for a moment before he spoke to the warrior in their language. Anna couldn't understand the words, but the tone was firm, commanding. The warrior nodded once, and then turned to Anna. "They will accept you," he said simply. Anna felt her heart leap in her chest. This was it, the moment that would change everything. She was going to be part of this tribe, part of their world. But she still had no idea what that meant. Would they see her as an outsider? Would they accept her as one of their own? She was about to find out. The leader of the Comanche, a tall man with piercing eyes and a deep scar running across his cheek, looked at Anna with an unreadable expression. He stepped forward, and the other members of the group followed suit, their gazes shifting from Anna to the warrior who had brought her here. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air electric with anticipation. Anna could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She was no longer an outsider, but she wasn't sure what that meant yet. She stood at the edge of the clearing, her eyes searching for any sign of reassurance, but all she saw was a circle of strangers who spoke a language she didn't understand. The warrior who had saved her stood beside her, his posture unwavering, his presence a shield of calm in the midst of the storm. He exchanged a few quiet words with the leader, and then turned to Anna, his eyes softening for the first time since they had met. "They will judge you, but only by your actions," he said quietly. "It is the way of our people. Prove yourself, and you will have a place among us." Anna nodded, trying to steady her breath. She had no idea what she was supposed to do, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't go back. She had no choice but to go forward. The leader gestured for her to follow him, and with a deep breath, Anna stepped forward into the circle. She felt the weight of their eyes on her, but she held her head high, determined to show them she was worthy. The Comanche leader spoke again, his words sharp and firm. She is an outsider. But she is here now. She must prove herself to us. Anna's heart sank. What did it mean to prove herself? Was there some test she had to pass? The warrior beside her stepped forward, his eyes never leaving hers. I brought her here, he said simply. She will stay. There was a brief silence before the leader nodded once, his decision made. Then let her stay, he said, his voice echoing in the stillness of the forest. The other members of the group murmured their agreement, their eyes narrowing in silent judgment. But Anna could sense a flicker of something else, curiosity, perhaps, or even respect. The warrior who had saved her turned to Anna, his expression unreadable. Come, he said, motioning for her to follow. You will learn our ways. Anna felt a mixture of relief and anxiety wash over her as she followed him. She had been accepted, for now, at least, but she still had much to prove. As they walked through the camp, Anna was introduced to the other members of the tribe. There were women who worked the earth, men who tended to the horses, and children who played in the dirt, their laughter filling the air. Anna tried to speak with them, but the language barrier was still a challenge. The warrior translated when necessary, but it was clear that Anna was an outsider. She could feel the difference in the way the others looked at her, a curiosity mixed with suspicion. The days that followed were a blur of new experiences. Anna learned the ways of the Comanche, their traditions, their respect for the land, and their warrior culture. She worked alongside the women, learning to weave, to hunt, and to survive in the wild. There were moments of connection, when the tribe would gather around a fire, telling stories of their ancestors, and Anna would sit quietly, listening. She didn't fully understand, but she could feel the power of their history, the strength that ran through their veins. As the days turned into weeks, Anna began to feel a small sense of belonging. She was still the outsider, but the warrior who had saved her remained by her side, guiding her through the intricacies of their way of life. He taught her to ride a horse, how to track animals, and how to survive on the harsh landscape that stretched out before them. She had never known this kind of freedom before. But despite the small victories, the nagging feeling of being an outsider never quite went away. She could feel it in the way the others looked at her, in the way the women would exchange quiet whispers when they thought she wasn't listening. It was as if they were waiting for her to fail, to prove them right. The warrior, however, never wavered. His faith in her was steady, unshaken, and it gave her strength to keep going. He did not speak much, but when he did, his words were always measured, always thoughtful. He had become her anchor in this strange new world. One evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Anna sat by the fire with the warrior. The tribe was gathered around, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. It was a rare moment of peace, and Anna took it in, savoring the sense of calm that had eluded her for so long. The warrior turned to her, his eyes searching hers. You have done well, he said quietly. But there is more for you to learn. You must continue to prove yourself, not just to them, but to yourself. Anna nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had come so far, and yet she knew the journey was far from over. But for the first time, she felt as though she had a chance to belong, to be a part of something greater than herself. And with the warrior by her side, she knew she would not face the challenges ahead alone. The days turned into weeks, and Anna slowly began to settle into her new life among the Comanche. The initial feelings of alienation had started to fade, replaced by a growing sense of understanding. She had proven herself capable, learning to ride, hunt, and participate in the daily activities of the tribe. But despite the progress she had made, there were still moments when she felt the weight of being an outsider. The other women, though polite, still treated her with a guarded distance. They had their own bonds, their own ways, and Anna had yet to earn a place among them. But the warrior remained by her side, his presence a constant reminder that she was not entirely alone. He spoke little but always made sure she was included, whether it was in the evening feasts or in the quiet moments around the campfire. It was his calm, steady presence that helped her navigate the unspoken rules of the tribe. One morning, as Anna prepared for the day, the warrior approached her with a serious look on his face. He was dressed in his traditional garb, his bow and arrows at his side. Today, he said quietly, you will go with me to hunt. It is time for you to prove your skill. Anna's heart raced. The thought of hunting with the warrior was both exciting and terrifying. She had been practicing, of course, but this was different. She would be in the field, alongside the tribe's best hunter. She knew this was her chance to show her worth, to prove once and for all that she belonged. They left the camp together, the early morning mist still lingering in the air. As they walked through the forest, the warrior did not speak, his focus entirely on the path ahead. Anna kept pace beside him, her senses alert to every sound. The rustling of leaves, the calls of birds, the occasional snap of a twig beneath their feet. It felt as though the forest was alive, watching them, waiting for them to prove themselves. After several hours of quiet walking, they came across a small herd of deer grazing in a clearing. The warrior crouched low, signaling for Anna to do the same. He pointed to the largest deer, the one that was furthest from them, and nodded. Anna understood. She had to take the shot. She had practiced with her bow for weeks, but this was different. The pressure was intense. With steady hands, she notched an arrow and pulled it back, her eyes locked on the deer's broad side. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to steady her breath. The wind was calm, and the deer stood still, unaware of their presence. She released the arrow. It flew through the air, its path true, but just as it reached its target, the deer bolted. The arrow missed, striking the ground just short of its mark. Anna cursed under her breath, but the warrior didn't react. He simply nodded and signaled for her to follow him. They moved quickly, tracking the herd through the thick brush, until they came across another group. This time, Anna felt the pressure mounting. There was no room for failure. She took a deep breath, watching the movement of the herd. The warrior was already positioned to her right, watching her every move. As another deer stepped into the clearing, Anna took her shot again. This time, she focused entirely on her target, blocking out the noise of her racing heart. The arrow flew, and this time, it found its mark. The deer staggered, then collapsed. Anna let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. The warrior stepped forward, kneeling beside her. His expression was still unreadable, but the slightest nod of his head signaled his approval. "You have done well," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of both pride and respect. Anna smiled, the sense of accomplishment flooding through her. She had proven herself. The warrior led her back to the camp, where the rest of the tribe gathered to celebrate the successful hunt. As they prepared the deer, Anna felt a sense of connection with the others. The women smiled at her, the guarded distance between them now a little less. The men nodded in recognition, and the children eagerly watched as the feast was prepared. For the first time, Anna felt as though she had truly earned her place. She was no longer the outsider. She was one of them. As the fire blazed in the center of the camp, the tribe gathered around, sharing stories and laughter. Anna sat beside the warrior, her heart swelling with pride. She had come a long way from the frightened girl who had been left behind. Now, she was a part of something greater, something that was built on strength, honor, and survival. And as the night wore on, she realized that she had found not just a place in the tribe, but a new home, one where she could finally belong. As the days passed in the Comanche camp, Anna's place among them solidified further. The initial uncertainty that had plagued her was slowly replaced by a quiet sense of belonging. She had become more than just a skilled hunter. She had become part of the tribe's pulse, the beat of its everyday life. The warrior who had saved her, now a constant presence by her side, continued to guide her in ways both seen and unseen. His mentorship had become invaluable, but so too had the silent support of the others. While the women still maintained a respectful distance, there were no longer the wary glances they once cast upon her. She had earned their respect, even if the bond was still a delicate one. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the land, Anna sat by the fire, watching the flames dance in the wind. She had learned so much in the weeks since her arrival. She understood the rhythms of the tribe now, when to hunt, when to gather, when to speak, and when to listen. Yet, for all her progress, there was still something in the air that felt unfinished. She was still learning, still discovering what it truly meant to be Comanche. As she sat in quiet contemplation, the warrior approached her, his silhouette casting a long shadow in the flickering light. "Come," he said, his voice low. "There is something for you to learn tonight." Without waiting for her response, he turned and walked toward the edge of the camp. Anna followed, her curiosity piqued. The warrior led her away from the fire and deeper into the night, the sounds of the camp fading behind them. The stars above were clear and bright, the silence of the wilderness around them almost complete. After walking for some time, they reached a small clearing surrounded by trees. The warrior stopped and turned to face her. "This is where we will test your spirit," he said. "To be Comanche is not only to survive in the world, but to understand the world around you. You must learn its language." Anna's brow furrowed. She had learned much, but she had never heard the word spirit used in this way. "What do you mean?" she asked. The warrior's eyes softened slightly, though his expression remained stoic. "The land speaks," he said. "The wind, the trees, the animals. They all speak a language of the earth. If you can listen and understand it, you will truly become one with us." Anna's mind raced. How could she possibly understand the land? She had lived her entire life surrounded by it, but it had always been just a backdrop to her existence, something she took for granted. "How do I learn it?" she asked, her voice filled with doubt. The warrior nodded, as though he had anticipated her question. "You will sit, you will listen, and you will feel." Anna looked around, unsure of how to proceed, but the warrior had already sat down, his legs crossed beneath him. He gestured for her to join him. "Feel the earth beneath you," he said. "Close your eyes and listen to the silence. In the silence, the world speaks." Anna hesitated but slowly sank to the ground beside him. She felt the coolness of the earth through her clothes, the slight give of the soil beneath her. The air was still, the only sound the occasional rustling of leaves in the distance. She closed her eyes, as the warrior instructed, and breathed deeply. The silence enveloped her, and for the first time in her life, she focused not on her thoughts, but on the sensations around her. The breeze against her skin, the faint hum of the earth beneath her, the distant howl of a wolf echoing through the night. Slowly, she began to notice things she had never felt before. The subtle vibrations in the ground, the way the wind seemed to shift with purpose, the sense that the night itself was alive with energy. "Do you feel it?" The warrior's voice broke through the silence. Anna nodded, her heart racing. She didn't know exactly what she was feeling, but she could sense something, an energy that had always been there, just beneath the surface. "The earth speaks to those who listen," the warrior continued. "It tells us where to go, what to hunt, when to rest. The animals know the language of the land, and they teach us. This is the first lesson." Anna sat still, her eyes still closed, her mind open to the sensations around her. Time seemed to slow as she tuned in more deeply to the rhythm of the world around her. She could almost feel the pulse of the land beneath her, the subtle shifts in the earth, the way the air seemed to carry secrets in the wind. When she opened her eyes again, the warrior was still sitting next to her, watching her closely. "You will learn much more, Anna. But this is the foundation. To be Comanche is to listen, to feel, and to understand." Anna nodded slowly, her heart swelling with a mixture of awe and excitement. She had always thought survival was about strength, about the will to fight. But now she understood that it was also about connection, to the earth, to the animals, to the people. It was about listening, feeling, and becoming one with the world around you. As they walked back to camp, Anna felt a shift within her. She was no longer just surviving in this world, she was beginning to understand it. And with the warrior's guidance, she knew she would continue to learn, to grow, and to truly become a part of the Comanche way of life. As the days continued to pass, Anna grew more comfortable with her place in the tribe. Her bond with the Comanche deepened, and the quiet respect she had earned began to turn into a sense of belonging. The warrior who had saved her remained a constant, his teachings a steady force in her life. But there was a new challenge that loomed ahead, the upcoming raid. The warrior had mentioned it in passing the day before, but today, as the camp prepared for departure, the weight of it felt more real. The camp was alive with activity. Horses were being saddled, weapons were being sharpened, and the air was thick with the buzz of anxious energy. The Comanche were preparing for a raid against a neighboring tribe, one that had long been a rival. The raid was to reclaim territory and assert their dominance, something the tribe had done for generations. Anna felt a tight knot form in her stomach. She had never participated in a raid before. She had never even seen a battle. But the warrior's eyes, steady and unwavering, found hers in the crowd. He stepped over to her, his face calm but filled with the same quiet strength that had always been there. "You are ready," he said simply. Anna swallowed hard. Ready? How could she be ready for something like this? But as she looked around, seeing the preparation and the determination in the eyes of the other warriors, she realized that this was part of their way of life. This was what they did. This was what they had always done. "You will ride with me," he said, as though reading her thoughts. "Stay close. Do as I do, and you will be safe." She nodded, her heart racing. She had trained for this, in her own way, through the hunts and the lessons of survival. But the raid was different. This wasn't just about hunting for food. This was about battle, about taking what was theirs, about defending the tribe. As they rode out of camp, Anna felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The warrior, always steady, was beside her, his gaze never wavering from the horizon. The other warriors moved in a tight formation, their horses steady under them as they rode with purpose. The land stretched out before them, vast and unforgiving, the trail winding through the hills and valleys like a serpent. The farther they rode, the more the tension seemed to rise in Anna's chest. She could hear the pounding of hooves behind her, the wind whipping through her hair, but her mind was focused on the task ahead. She had never seen the land from this perspective before, as a battlefield, a place of conflict, not just survival. When they arrived at the rival tribe's camp, Anna's heart was pounding in her chest. The warriors spread out, forming a wide circle around the camp, their movements quick and purposeful. The warrior beside her looked at her once more, his eyes meeting hers with a brief but meaningful glance. "Stay close," he repeated, "and do not hesitate." With a deep breath, Anna followed him as they rode toward the camp. The sound of hooves grew louder, and soon the clash of steel and the shouts of warriors filled the air. Anna's mind was spinning, her body tense. She had seen the stories in the flickering light of the campfire, but this was real. This was not a tale passed down through generations. This was her reality now. The battle was fierce, but Anna stayed close to the warrior, doing as he instructed, watching every move he made. She learned quickly, instinctively, how to navigate the chaos of the raid. She followed his lead, staying out of the thickest of the fighting, but always within reach, ready to act when needed. It wasn't long before the tide of battle began to shift in the Comanche's favor. Their warriors, swift and fierce, overwhelmed the rival tribe's defenses. Anna felt a sense of awe as she watched the tribe's strength in action. It was not just the power of the warriors, but the unity between them, the way they moved as one, each knowing their role, each trusting in the other. And then, in the heat of the battle, she saw it. A group of enemy warriors attempting to break through the line. Without thinking, Anna spurred her horse forward, riding hard toward them. The warriors saw her move and called out to her, but there was no time to stop. Her heart raced as she drew her bow, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. She aimed and released. The arrow flew through the air with deadly precision, striking one of the attackers and sending him tumbling from his horse. The other warriors quickly subdued the remaining fighters, and the battle was over. Anna sat there, her breath coming in short gasps, her heart still pounding in her chest. She had done it. She had fought. She had proven herself in the heat of battle, just like the others. The warrior rode up to her, his eyes scanning her face for any sign of injury. When he saw none, his lips curled into the slightest of smiles. "Well done," he said quietly. "You are one of us now." Anna's chest swelled with pride at his words. It was more than she had hoped for. She had proven herself, not just as a hunter, but as a warrior. As part of the Comanche, the tribe's victory was celebrated with songs and stories around the fire that night. Anna sat among them, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. She had found her place, her purpose, and as the stars stretched above her, she knew that she had truly become one with the land, the people, and the way of life she had once feared. She had earned her place in the tribe, and nothing would ever take that away from her. The days after the raid were filled with a sense of triumph, but also a heavy weight that Anna had not anticipated. The victory had been celebrated, as all raids were, with feasting and songs around the fire, but the reality of what she had witnessed lingered. As she sat by the fire, listening to the warriors tell tales of their bravery, she couldn't help but think about the lives that had been lost. The battle had been necessary, of course. The Comanche needed to protect their land, to ensure their survival. But for Anna, who had grown up in a world where violence was something distant and mythical, the rawness of it all was still a shock. The warrior who had saved her watched her closely, his gaze steady. She could tell he had noticed the change in her demeanor, the way her eyes would occasionally drift toward the flames, lost in thought. He had always been a man of few words. But tonight he spoke. "You are thinking of the lives taken," he said, his voice low but strong. Anna turned to him, surprised that he had read her so easily. "I didn't expect it to feel like this," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never seen anything like that before. It's not just survival. It's so much more." The warrior nodded, understanding in his eyes. "It is the way of our people," he said. "War is part of our life. It is our way of protecting what is ours. But it is not something we celebrate lightly. The loss of life, even when it is necessary, weighs on us all." Anna listened, taking in his words. She had heard stories from the other women in the tribe, how they too had lived through battles, how they had seen loved ones taken in the heat of war. It was the way of the world they lived in. "I understand," Anna said softly, though she wasn't sure she truly did. She was still processing everything: the violence, the victory, the cost. The warrior looked at her, his gaze searching, and then, without a word, he reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but in that moment, it felt like a bridge between two worlds. She had come so far from the frightened girl who had been left behind. She was no longer just surviving. She was becoming a part of this world, this people. But there was more to learn. The following morning, the warrior and Anna set out again. This time, it was not for battle, but for something just as important: a journey to the heart of the tribe's beliefs. The warrior had told her of a sacred place, a site where the Comanche went to reconnect with the spirits of the land, to seek guidance and strength. Anna had heard of these places, of the spiritual practices of the Comanche, but she had never experienced it firsthand. The journey took them deep into the mountains, away from the camp and into the wilderness where the land stretched out in every direction, untamed and wild. They rode for hours, the only sounds the rhythmic pounding of their horses' hooves and the occasional call of a bird high above. As they approached the sacred site, Anna could feel the air shift. The atmosphere seemed different here, heavier, yet full of a strange peace. The warrior dismounted, and Anna followed suit, standing before a large rock formation that seemed to pulse with energy. The warrior motioned for her to approach. "This is where we honor the spirits," he explained. "It is where we connect with our ancestors, where we find guidance for the future." Anna's heart began to race. She had never done anything like this before. She had never believed in the spirits of the land, at least not in the way the Comanche did. But as she stood there, looking at the rock formation, she felt something she couldn't explain. It wasn't just the silence or the vastness of the land around her. It was something deeper. The warrior turned to face her. "You must speak your heart here," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Whatever you seek, whatever you need, you must ask for it. The land will answer." Anna felt a deep sense of unease. What was she supposed to say? She had never been one to ask for help, much less from the spirits of the land. But as she stood there, the weight of everything she had experienced began to press down on her. The fear, the doubt, the confusion. She had come so far, and yet, she still felt like a stranger in this world. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and then spoke. "I seek understanding," she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty in her heart. "I want to understand my place here. I want to know what it means to be Comanche, to live this life, to honor the land." The warrior stood silently, watching her with an unreadable expression. For a long time, there was nothing but the sound of the wind. Then, slowly, as though the earth itself was listening, Anna felt something shift within her. It was subtle at first, a faint warmth that spread through her chest. It grew, slowly, until it filled her entire being, a sense of peace she had never known. The land had answered, not with words, but with a feeling, a deep connection. She opened her eyes, and the warrior was still standing before her, his face calm, but his eyes knowing. "The land has spoken to you," he said softly. Anna nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She still didn't fully understand it, but she knew something had changed. She was no longer just an outsider, no longer just someone who had been rescued. She was becoming part of something far greater than herself. And as they left the sacred site and made their way back to the camp, Anna knew her journey was far from over. But she was no longer afraid. She had found her place, and with the warrior by her side, she would continue to learn, to grow, and to honor the land that had welcomed her home. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the camp, Anna sat by the fire, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The sacred site where she had felt the land speak to her still lingered in her mind, its power not fully understood but deeply felt. It was as if something had unlocked within her, something that tied her to this land, this people, in a way she couldn't explain. The warrior had been right. The land had answered her call. She was no longer just an outsider. She was becoming part of something greater. The sounds of the evening were different tonight, quieter, more solemn. The warriors spoke in low voices, their faces serious. Anna could feel the shift in the atmosphere, the change that had come with the victory, the raid, and the lessons she had learned. It was all leading to this moment. The warrior who had saved her approached, his steps steady, his gaze focused. He did not speak immediately, but sat beside her by the fire, his presence calm and unshakable. "Tomorrow, we leave for a journey," he said, his voice as quiet as the night around them. "It will take us far from here, to the edge of the land we call home. There are many who will come with us, but it is a journey that only the worthy can undertake." Anna looked at him, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension rising in her chest. "What is this journey?" she asked, her voice steady despite the uncertainty she felt. "A test," he replied simply. "A test of spirit, strength, and commitment. It is for those who have proven themselves to the tribe. You are one of us now, but this will be the final step, the one that seals your place with us forever." The weight of his words settled in Anna's chest. She had proven herself in the raid, in the hunt, and in the lessons of the land. But this test, would be something else entirely. "What must I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The warrior's gaze softened. "You must face the trials of the land," he said. "Only then will you understand what it truly means to be Comanche, to honor the earth, the ancestors, and the tribe." The next morning, Anna joined the others as they prepared for the journey. The air was crisp, the first hints of dawn breaking over the horizon. The warriors packed their gear, checking their weapons, securing their horses. Anna, now fully integrated into the tribe, was no longer an outsider. She was one of them, ready for whatever the journey would bring. The path ahead led them deep into the wilderness, farther than they had ever gone before. It was a place few Comanche had ventured, a place where only the most determined and capable could survive. The land, Anna was told, was wild and untamed, a place where the spirits still roamed freely. As they rode, the warrior did not speak much, but his presence was reassuring. Anna kept her focus, her eyes scanning the land around her, alert to any changes, any signs of danger. The journey took them across rocky terrain, through dense forests, and across wide open plains. The further they traveled, the more the land seemed to shift. It was as though the earth itself was testing them, challenging them to prove their worth. After several days of travel, they reached the edge of the land, a vast, desolate stretch of desert. The air was dry, the sun relentless. The heat pressed down on them, making every step feel like a battle. But the warrior did not falter. He led them onward, his determination unwavering. As they approached the heart of the desert, Anna began to feel the true weight of the journey. The land here was harsh, unforgiving. The heat was so intense that even the wind seemed to burn. The warriors pushed on, but Anna could see the toll it was taking on them. Even the most seasoned riders were struggling against the elements. It was here, in the midst of the desert, that the true test began. The warrior stopped, his gaze fixed on the horizon. He turned to Anna, his eyes unreadable. "This is where you will prove yourself," he said. "You must survive the desert. It is the land's final trial. If you can endure this, you will have earned your place among us, not as an outsider, but as one of our own." Anna's heart pounded in her chest as she looked around at the vast expanse of desert stretching out before her. The heat was unbearable, the sun blinding. She had always heard of the dangers of the desert, the scorching temperatures, the lack of water, the endless miles of barren land. But now, standing on the edge of it, she understood the true challenge. The warrior's words echoed in her mind. She must endure. She must survive. For the next several days, Anna faced the brutal reality of the desert. The group moved in silence, conserving their energy, careful not to waste any water. The desert seemed to stretch on forever, a barren wasteland that tested their willpower at every turn. The warrior was always at her side, guiding her, teaching her how to survive in this harsh environment. It was not just about physical strength. It was about mental fortitude, about the ability to keep moving even when every step felt like it could be her last. Each night, as they huddled around the fire, the warrior would speak of the desert's lessons, of how it tested not just the body but the spirit. Anna listened, understanding more with each passing day. She was learning, not just about survival, but about herself, about the strength she had within her, a strength that she had never fully realized until now. The desert was unforgiving, but it was also beautiful in its own way. The way the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and red. The quiet, the stillness of the land, a reminder of the vastness of the world and the smallness of her place within it. And as the days passed, Anna began to feel a deep connection to the land, a bond that went beyond survival. It was a bond forged through endurance, through the will to keep going even when everything seemed impossible. By the time they reached the edge of the desert, Anna knew she had passed the test. She had faced the land's challenges, endured its trials, and survived. And in that moment, as she stood at the edge of the desert, looking out over the vast, untamed land, she knew that she had truly become Comanche. As the final stretch of the desert passed behind them, Anna's heart began to steady. The harsh landscape, which had seemed so unforgiving just days before, was now behind her. The journey had been grueling, but it had also been transformative. Her body ached from the heat and the constant effort of pushing forward, but her spirit had been forged in the desert's crucible. She felt a deeper connection to the land now, as though it had accepted her, tested her, and allowed her to prove herself worthy. The warrior who had guided her through the trial of the desert looked over at her, his face as unreadable as ever, but his eyes held something more, pride. "You have done it," he said, his voice steady. "You are one of us now." Anna met his gaze, feeling the weight of his words settle in her chest. She had been uncertain when she first arrived, unsure if she would ever truly belong, but the desert had changed that. She had faced its trials, learned its secrets, and now, she was ready to face whatever came next. They had left the desert behind, and now the world before them was vast and green, with rolling hills that stretched as far as the eye could see. The cool breeze was a welcome relief after the blistering heat they had endured. It felt like a different world entirely. The group continued their journey, the warriors leading the way with Anna close behind, always by the warrior's side. They made their way toward a distant mountain range, and as they neared the base of the mountains, Anna noticed a gathering of people. She had never seen so many Comanche together in one place before. The camp was large, a collection of tents and fires stretching out across the valley. Anna felt a sense of awe as they entered, the sight of so many Comanche in one place filling her with pride and a deeper sense of belonging. The warrior led her to a central fire where the leader of the tribe, an older man with a long white beard and piercing eyes, waited. Anna had heard stories of the leader, a figure of great respect and power among the Comanche, but seeing him in person was something else entirely. The leader looked at her with a measured gaze, as if assessing her very soul. "You have returned," he said, his voice deep and steady. "And you have proven yourself. You are now part of this tribe, part of our family." Anna felt her heart swell as the weight of the leader's words sank in. She was no longer an outsider, no longer the girl who had been cast aside. She was a Comanche. The tribe welcomed her with open arms. The warriors, the women, the children, they all greeted her with warmth, each one recognizing the strength she had shown. The warriors patted her on the back, acknowledging her place among them. The women, who had once treated her with distant politeness, now offered smiles of respect, recognizing her as one of their own. The children, always curious, came up to her with wide eyes, eager to learn from the woman who had endured so much. As the night fell, the tribe gathered around the fire. The leader spoke of the trials that every member of the tribe had faced, of the strength and resilience that it took to survive in their world. Anna listened intently, feeling the weight of their history and the power of their shared bond. The fire crackled, and the songs of the tribe filled the air. Anna felt the rhythm of it, the heartbeat of the Comanche, pulsing through her veins. She had become part of it, a piece of something much larger than herself. Later that evening, after the celebrations had quieted and the tribe had settled in for the night, Anna sat outside her tent, looking up at the stars. They were the same stars she had seen from the desert, but now they felt different, more familiar. She felt a deep sense of peace, something she had never felt before. The warrior who had been by her side all this time approached her, his silhouette dark against the night sky. "You have come far," he said, his voice low. Anna looked at him, grateful for everything he had taught her, for guiding her through the trials, for showing her what it meant to be Comanche. "I never thought I could do it," she admitted, her voice soft. "I never thought I would find my place here." The warrior gave a small smile, the faintest hint of pride in his eyes. "You have always had a place here. You just had to find it within yourself." Anna smiled, the words sinking deep into her heart. She had found her place. She had found her family. She had found her strength. As the stars glittered above, Anna realized that her journey was far from over. There would be more challenges, more trials, more growth to come. But for the first time, she was ready. Ready to face the future as one of the Comanche. Ready to honor the land, the people, and the legacy that she had become a part of. She was no longer just a survivor. She was now a warrior, a protector, and a daughter of the Comanche. The days that followed Anna's acceptance into the tribe were filled with a new sense of purpose. The trials of the desert, the raids, the tests of spirit and survival had forged her into something stronger than the frightened girl who had once been left behind. Now, she walked with the warriors, rode with the hunters, and spoke with the elders. Her place in the Comanche was no longer a question, it was a certainty. But with this certainty came a responsibility that Anna had never fully understood until now. She had earned her place in the tribe, but now she had to prove that she could hold it, that she could protect what she had become a part of. The land, the people, the way of life that had welcomed her were not things to be taken lightly. The warrior who had been by her side since her arrival had begun to show her a different side of his leadership. He was no longer just a mentor, but a figure of authority within the tribe. He had been instrumental in the raids, guiding the younger warriors, making decisions that affected the lives of the entire tribe. It was not just the physical strength of the Comanche that made them formidable, but the strength of their unity, the bonds they shared. One evening, after a long day of scouting the boundaries of the tribe's land, the warrior called Anna to join him by the fire. The embers crackled as the night air settled around them. "There is something you must understand," he said, his voice low, but heavy with meaning. "We are protectors of this land. It is not just a place to us. It is our spirit, our lifeblood. We protect it, and in turn, it protects us." Anna listened closely, the words sinking in deeper than she expected. The land was not just land. It was more than dirt and rock, trees and rivers. It was the heart of the Comanche, and to honor it was to honor everything they stood for. "But there are threats," he continued. "Other tribes, settlers, anyone who wishes to take what is ours. We defend our way of life, even if it means we must go to war." The firelight flickered across his face, casting shadows that made him seem even more formidable. Anna's heart quickened. The weight of his words was not lost on her. The warrior spoke of duty, but he also spoke of sacrifice. She had seen the consequences of war firsthand. She had seen the lives taken, the families shattered. It was the price of survival in this unforgiving world. "What do you want me to do?" Anna asked, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. The warrior paused, his eyes meeting hers. "I want you to understand. This is our world, Anna. Our duty to protect it, to protect the people we love. We do not fight because we like it, but because we must." Anna felt the weight of his gaze, the responsibility that came with the knowledge of what it meant to truly protect. She had been a part of this tribe for some time now, but she was still learning what it meant to be a true Comanche warrior. "I understand," she said quietly, her voice soft but firm. "I will protect it." The warrior nodded, the smallest of smiles breaking through his usually stoic demeanor. "Good," he said. "You have proven yourself in many ways, but this is the final lesson. Protecting the people, the land, it is not just about fighting. It is about making decisions that will impact everyone. You must learn the balance between strength and wisdom. The days that followed were filled with the quiet hum of daily life. But there was a new sense of focus in the camp. Anna was given more responsibilities. She was trusted with more than just the physical tasks of the tribe. She was becoming involved in the decisions that affected their future. The warriors were constantly training, but now, Anna trained not only with weapons, but with strategy. She learned the art of planning, of understanding the land and how to move with it, how to use its terrain to her advantage. One day, as the tribe prepared for another journey to check the borders, Anna found herself riding alongside the warrior. The landscape stretched out before them, the horizon a perfect line where the earth met the sky. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the plains. It was peaceful, almost surreal, and Anna felt a deep sense of gratitude for this moment of calm. But the warrior's words from days earlier still echoed in her mind. Protect the land. Protect the people. She was part of something much larger now, and the weight of that responsibility was a constant presence in her thoughts. Anna, the warrior's voice broke through her reverie. It is not just the battles you will face in the field that matter. It is the battles you fight within yourself. Every decision you make will affect others. You must be wise, even in the quiet moments. His words settled into her heart. The land was not just something to be fought for. It was something to be understood, respected, and protected with every ounce of her being. As they rode on, Anna could feel the bond she had with this land growing stronger. She had learned to read the signs of the earth, the way the wind shifted, the way the animals moved. She had learned to listen to the land, to trust it, and to protect it with everything she had. She was not just surviving anymore. She was living in harmony with the world around her. And for the first time in her life, she felt whole. The tribe's journey to the border took several days, but as they approached the edge of their territory, Anna felt a deep sense of peace. She was ready to protect what had become her home, her family, and her future. The warrior beside her nodded in approval, as if he could sense the shift in her. They were no longer just traveling to scout the land. They were returning home, with a deeper understanding of their place in the world. The journey had only just begun. As the days passed, the journey to the borders of their territory had brought Anna closer to a realization. She had finally come to understand what it meant to live as Comanche. The lessons of strength and survival, which once felt like burdens to bear, were now woven into her daily existence. The quiet moments between the daily trials had become a steady rhythm in her life. The land, the people, the warriors, they had all become a part of her, and she of them. The warrior who had taught her everything stood by her side, a silent protector, but now, in their moments of rest, they spoke more openly. He spoke less of battles and more of the philosophy that guided the Comanche. It was in these moments, while sitting by the fire, that Anna began to understand the depth of their way of life. To fight is easy, he had told her one evening, but to know when not to fight is the true strength. Anna had pondered his words for days. The Comanche were fierce warriors, but they were not brutal for the sake of it. They fought only when they had to, only when it was necessary to protect their land, their people. It wasn't the strength of their arms that made them powerful, but the wisdom of their hearts. As they reached the edge of their territory, Anna could see the signs of change. The landscape before them had shifted from the desert to rolling hills, lush and green, a sharp contrast to the barren land they had crossed. The wind here was softer, filled with the scent of pine and fresh grass. This was the heart of their land, the place where they would make their stand if ever it was needed. The warrior led Anna to a small hill overlooking the valley below, where the tribe's village was nestled. The village was a peaceful place, the steady rhythm of life carrying through the air. Children ran and played. Women tended to the fires and the cooking, and men moved with purpose, carrying out their tasks. Anna watched it all, her heart swelling with pride. This was home. The warrior's voice broke her reverie. "This is the land we protect," he said, his gaze sweeping over the village. "And this is why we fight, when the time comes." Anna nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had learned so much in the past months, but it was only now that she fully grasped the true responsibility of being Comanche. It was not just about survival or proving one's worth. It was about protecting everything that was sacred. As they made their way back to the village, Anna felt a shift within herself. The warrior had given her the tools to survive, to fight, to live among the Comanche. But now, he had given her something else, a sense of purpose. It was not just about being strong. It was about being wise enough to know when to protect and when to walk away. That lesson had settled deep within her, and she knew it would guide her from now on. The rest of the day was filled with the usual rhythms of village life. But Anna found herself more aware of everything around her. The children's laughter sounded different now, not just as a sound of joy, but as a reminder of what they were protecting. The firelight seemed warmer, the faces of the people kinder, knowing that they had a shared purpose. That night, the leader of the tribe, the one Anna had seen from afar, called for a gathering by the fire. The entire tribe had assembled, and Anna stood with the warriors, her heart racing. The leader, an imposing figure with a calm but commanding presence, spoke to the gathered crowd. "We are the guardians of this land," he said, his voice carrying through the night air. "We protect not only what is ours, but also what belongs to the earth. This land feeds us, shelters us, and it is our duty to honor it and defend it when the time comes." Anna listened intently, feeling the weight of his words settle over her. It was more than just a battle for territory. It was a battle for survival, for the way of life they had built and maintained for generations. The leader's gaze swept over the crowd, and then he looked directly at Anna. "You have proven yourself," he said, his eyes sharp but filled with something else, approval. "You have faced the desert. You have shown the strength of spirit that is the mark of a true Comanche. Tonight, we honor you as one of us." Anna felt a flush of warmth spread across her face, but she stood tall, meeting the leader's gaze. This was it. This was the moment she had worked for. She had faced her trials, endured the tests of the land, and now, she was no longer just an outsider. She was Comanche, in every sense of the word. The rest of the tribe erupted into applause, and Anna's heart swelled with pride. The warrior who had taught her everything stood beside her, a silent approval in his eyes. He didn't need to say anything. His presence, his support, had always been enough. As the night wore on, the fires burned brightly, the tribe celebrating with songs and stories, their voices rising in unison. Anna sat among them, surrounded by the people she had come to love, her heart full. She was no longer the girl who had been abandoned. She was no longer a stranger in a strange land. She had found her place, her family, and now, she was part of something greater than herself. The future was uncertain, and the challenges would never stop coming. But for the first time, Anna knew she was ready. Ready to fight for what mattered, ready to protect the land and the people she now called her own. She was Comanche, and nothing could ever take that away from her. As the days stretched into months, Anna found herself no longer reflecting on the girl she had once been. The memories of her past, though never forgotten, became like the distant echo of a life she no longer lived. The woman who stood now, among the Comanche, was forged in the fires of battle, wisdom, and unity. Her place in the tribe had been earned, not given, and with every passing day, she grew deeper into her new identity. The warrior who had been her mentor and protector stood beside her, his silent support always unwavering. They had seen many battles together, fought side by side, and through it all, Anna had come to understand what it truly meant to be Comanche. She had not only learned to survive, she had learned to live with purpose, to defend not only herself but the land, the people, and the values of the Comanche. One evening, as the camp settled into a peaceful quiet after a long day of training and hunting, the leader called for a gathering. Anna, now a trusted warrior in her own right, stood among the others, her heart steady and filled with anticipation. She had been waiting for this moment, the final test of her place in the tribe. The leader stood tall before the gathered warriors, his eyes sweeping over the tribe. "We stand at the edge of a new season," he said, his voice strong but carrying the weight of something deeper. "The time has come for our people to protect not only this land, but its future." Anna stood at attention, her mind focused. The air was thick with the weight of responsibility. "We must expand our territory, secure our borders, and ensure that no one can take what is ours," the leader continued. "But we will not go to war blindly. This is not just about strength, it is about strategy. It is about protecting the generations to come." Anna's heart swelled with pride. This was what she had worked for, not just to fight, but to lead, to guide, to think beyond the battle and see the bigger picture. The leader's gaze shifted to Anna, his eyes filled with quiet approval. "You have proven yourself, Anna. You have fought for this land, for these people, and you have shown wisdom beyond your years. Now, I ask you to take up a new responsibility. The time has come for you to lead a group of warriors. You will protect the northern borders and ensure our safety as we prepare for the coming season." Anna's breath caught in her throat. This was the honor she had dreamed of, but it came with a weight she had never fully understood until now. Leading others was not the same as following. It was a responsibility that extended far beyond the battlefield. She had learned the lessons of strength, but now she would have to learn the lessons of leadership. The warrior who had been her guide and mentor stood beside her, his gaze steady and unshaken. He had seen this moment coming, had prepared her for it. "You will do well," he said quietly, his words simple but filled with belief. With the leader's blessing, Anna prepared for her new role. The following days were filled with meetings, plans, and briefings. She had to learn the lay of the land in a new way, understanding not just how to fight in it, but how to protect it. She spent hours poring over maps, speaking with the elders, and listening to the seasoned warriors who had fought in countless battles. Every word, every lesson, became a part of her. The responsibility was great, but Anna knew she was ready. When the time came to leave, Anna rode at the front of her group, her eyes focused and determined. The warrior who had been her guide and protector rode beside her, offering silent encouragement. The air was crisp as they rode through the land that had once been foreign to her, now her home. As they approached the northern border, Anna could feel the weight of her new role settle into her chest. This was no longer about proving herself. This was about protecting the future. The group made camp that night at the edge of the forest, the wind whispering through the trees. Anna sat by the fire, her thoughts racing. She had come so far. The girl who had once been left behind, abandoned by her people, was now a leader of the Comanche. She had fought for her place, and now she was fighting to ensure that the people she loved could continue to live in peace, that they could continue to thrive in the land they had fought so hard to protect. As she sat by the fire, looking into the flames, she thought of the warrior who had guided her, the tribe that had taken her in, and the land that had tested her. She had found her home, her family, her strength. And now, with the dawn of a new day, she would lead the Comanche into the future. The journey was far from over, but Anna was no longer afraid. She had found her place among the Comanche, and with each passing day, she knew she would continue to grow, to learn, and to protect the legacy of those who came before her. In this gripping tale of survival and self-discovery, a young girl is thrown into the harsh world of the Comanche, where strength, wisdom, and loyalty are tested. As she navigates through battles, personal trials, and the harsh desert, she learns what it truly means to be a part of this fierce tribe. Alongside a seasoned warrior, she embarks on a journey that will transform her from an outsider to a trusted leader. This story explores the deep bond between the land and its people, the importance of protecting one's own, and the challenges of leadership in the untamed wilderness. For fans of Western stories, this is an immersive experience that delves into the heart of Native American traditions, survival in the wild, and the bonds forged through struggle. As the story unfolds, the protagonist faces moments of doubt, triumph, and profound connection to the land. The harsh realities of life in the West are brought to life with raw intensity, and every chapter is filled with the spirit of the rugged frontier. The character's growth and transformation mirror the unforgiving nature of the land, as she learns that survival is not just about physical strength, but about heart, wisdom, and the courage to stand firm in the face of adversity. This is a tale of resilience and courage, where every decision is critical and every moment is a test of the will to survive. Fans of Western stories will find themselves captivated by the authenticity of the struggles faced by the characters and the compelling portrayal of life on the frontier. Whether it's battling the elements or navigating the complexities of tribal life, this story offers a profound look into what it means to fight for one's place in the world. As the protagonist becomes more entwined with the Comanche way of life, the story weaves together themes of loyalty, honor, and sacrifice, making it a must-read for anyone passionate about Western stories and the untold narratives of the American West.